I'm not kissing myself. Good morning. Hey, hello. Good morning, folks. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for being here. Welcome to the first full day of summer. And the Newsmakers breakfast, that's right, on growth and in a slow growth development in a slow growth environment. Thanks so much for coming, everybody. Let's see. I want to start by thanking our sponsors. Christina Stone with Alan Tate, Christina Stone Homes. Where are you, Christina? Thanks so much, appreciate it. Trey Bright. Trey, are you here? Trey, hey, thank you. His firm is Bright Law in Birkdale Village, okay? Marzia Mazzotti is here, thank you. Thanks for sponsoring. Coffee sponsors are Elise Redmond. I saw Elise. Thank you, Elise. Master title, is Pat Jackson here? He forgot. United Bank in Mooresville. Adam, I saw you. Thanks so much. I want to thank Gail and Tracy for checking everybody in. We have a full house. I really appreciate that. Let's see. I'd also like to elect our recognized officials. Starting with Mecklenburg County Commissioner Pat Cotham. I saw you. Mayor Washington is here. Commissioner Dennis Bilodeau, thank you for coming. Commissioner Michael Osborne. Let's see, who else is here? Former NC District 98 Rep. Christy Clark is here. Thanks so much. Dr. Mike, you're in the room. Let's see who else. I want to mention Tim Perry. I don't see Tim. Tim from NAP and North American Properties is here. Thanks so much. All the way from Atlanta. Thank you. Let's see, I'm saving one. Rox Burnham, the new Cornelius Planning Director, is here. That's pretty awesome. Also, former Commissioner Jim Duke is here. Jim, I thought you might have a little bit of news.
I'm not ready. And Dave asked me to post you all on Fabulous Big Day at the Lake. To date, we have raised $141,000.
Thank you, Jim. That's thanks to so many people in this room, so many supporters of Big Day at the Lake and Big Brothers, Big Sisters over the years. Boat hosts, volunteers, sponsors, plain old donors. So it's been amazing. We still need boat hosts. So if you would please go to www.bigdayathelake.com. I had to memorize the www part. bigdayathelake.com, and you can sign up to be a boat host. And I also want to mention Paul Newton is the new chair of the Kane Center. Did I get all the elected officials? I apologize if not. Right here.
I'm a candidate.
Lisa Jewell, thanks for being a candidate in District 98.
Yes.
Okay, super, good. Thanks for coming. Erica Batten and Dave Vieser are covering this as journalists for Business Today and Cornelius Today. It will appear in what's called the print edition.
The old-fashioned stuff.
So it'll go in the print edition, the July print edition first, and then online. So we favor our print readers with serious, heavy, in-depth stuff, and then put it up online where it's absolutely free. But anyway, that's our business model. Jason Benavides is here too, taking photos. I saw Jason, thank you. There he is, hiding. He does that at work too. Okay, well this is a Newsmakers breakfast. I think we've been doing these for 15 years, I'm not sure. I don't remember past 15 minutes. But how does this work? I'll do speaker introductions in a minute, and I'll catch, of course, Mayor Aneralla and Commissioner Furcht and Jake. But it's going to be your turn. This is Meet the Press, and you guys are Chuck Todd. Get it? Right? So you guys ask the questions. Please ask questions. But I'm the moderator. I field the questions, cue them up to our speakers, okay? So just maintain a system, and then I close this down at 9, so don't worry about getting to work at 9:02. All that said, you know, it's all about civil behavior, good behavior, and asking questions, and people who are putting it out there, and they'll answer your questions. Keep it short. Questions should be short, not statements, okay? And then same with our speakers, you know, try to keep it short, keep it moving. It's early in the morning, I should be in bed. I'll take the last question at 8:55 and 30 seconds. And I'll get us out by 9. And let me do introductions. So, I'm gonna start with John Aneralla, alphabetical order, right? John was elected mayor of Huntersville in 2015 and served 3 terms, right, until 2021. The tax rate, what did the tax rate do? It moved down twice to revenue neutral, am I right? Okay, cool. After 2 revaluations. John is a self-employed investment advisor and a University of Georgia undergrad. He also has an MBA from Hofstra. He is on the Investment Advisory Committee for the North Carolina Pension Plan. That's a serious role. Colin Furcht is serving in his first elected office. He ran on a platform of manageable growth to try and keep, quote, our small town feel but grow responsibly, unquote. Colin tells me he got tired of complaining and hoped to make a difference by being on the town board. He also sits on the boards of Parks and Rec, the Land Development Code Advisory Board, fondly known as LDCAB, right? Visit Lake Norman and the Lake Norman Chamber. 20-year resident and founder of the Lake Norman Boat Parade as well, right? Okay. Jake Palillo. As a business journalist, that's what I am. This is interesting to me. Jake was 15 when he quit high school and opened a landscaping business in Niagara Falls. He moved out of his parents' house at age 16, built a pizza business from nothing to 5 stores, ran them for 15 years, and then sold them to employees. He moved here and got into real estate. Perhaps you've heard of him. He turned Bailey's Glen into one of the most successful senior communities in the region. The $100 million Symphony Park will open later this year. And of course, he's the man behind the Laguna Bay development, which has been endorsed by the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce. Bill Russell is here, chair or CEO of the Lake Norman Chamber. Jake is a classic entrepreneur. Thank you, guys. Now it's your turn to self-introduce, and I'll stand over there and field questions, okay? So self-introduce, Colin, you go first.
Good morning, thank you, Dave, and to everyone coming out. I know you're not here to see me, so I'll be brief. The main reason I wanted to be part of this was 2 years ago, before I decided to run, I was just an average person like many of you in the room. I'm not a business owner, but I do support local business. I am from New York, originally, Long Island, and there was a tremendous amount of growth before I left. And so the attitude that I've kind of taken is listen to the people. That's something we all ran on. I'll point to my fellow commissioners as well. Listen to the people. And regardless of what is being told to us by developers or other folks in the area, it's about the people that live in the community that should make the decisions. And we as good public servant should be doing that. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm in this spot. So.
Thank you, Colin. John?
Well, I know you're all wondering, why am I here? You know, I got Jake Palillo on my left, I got Colin on my right, and I guess I'll try to be in the middle. But one of the reasons why I ran for office was not rezoning or development. I was more on the fiscal side of things. And but I have to tell you that it does become a big part of being an elected official. And I think there's a lot of miscommunication and misunderstanding about some of the things that go on with zoning and so forth. So we can get into that later. But I did also notice that when we got introduced, nobody clapped. So I'm a little upset about that.
Jake?
My name is Jake Palillo. I've been here since 1998. Developer, builder, contractor. I have a passion for developing unique projects. I like developing in the neighborhood where I live rather than outside the area. And we just like to, you know, bring projects that add value to the community and things that aren't here, and believe that growth is coming and you can't stop it, but you can plan and you can do great projects that add value versus a bunch of little scattered projects. So.
Super Jake, thank you. Let's see, I hope there's questions, but I'd ask Paul Newton to ask the first question. Paul?
Thank you. As the incoming chair for Kane Center, we recognize that we hold a pivotal place in the community, and we're also very interested in responsible growth. We do want growth. The Arts District around the Kane Center is something dear to me, dear to everyone involved with the Kane Center. We want to see exciting things happen. And the more conversations I get into, it's always a balance between the perceived no-growth people and the perceived developers that want to do immense things, and common sense is somewhere in the middle. It's a general question, but what do you individuals consider as responsible growth?
Good question. Want to do 1, 2, 3? Want to do it that way? Who wants to go first?
So obviously this is home since I'm a Cornelius commissioner, and we've talked about this on a number of occasions. Growth in that part of our town is critical. There's a large contingent of folks that are asking us for more. They want someplace to go. They want a place to spend their money. They want to go to the Kane Center. They want to go to dinner. They want to go to the Kane Center. They want to have a drink. You know, there's a business aspect of this that I think is more of a focus for us right now. There's already a ton of residential on the plan for around OMB with Carolina and Green Gardens. So I think that side of town is going to be fine for a while. But I think we need to be smart. There's obviously a project in the works, and Mark's here today. We're looking at that. There is a need for more in downtown Cornelius, but I think it comes down to what does more mean, and that's the question. Is it more residential? Is it more business? I lean more on I prefer to have more business aspect of that.
Good job.
So, just like beauty's in the eye of the beholder, growth's in the eye of the beholder. Typically, growth is great if it's not in your backyard. And I'll just give you an example. We just, the current town board, 2 days ago, just approved a project, a pretty immense project, that several of our ordinances were modified for, height-wise and density and all that type of stuff, off of Hambright Road and Mount Holly Huntersville Road. And I think it's a great project. Nobody complained about it because nobody lives there. Nobody lives there now. And I always think it's fascinating because I live in Burkdale, and in front of Burkdale, and I bought in Burkdale because I knew eventually there'd be a big development there. They talked about this live, work, play thing, and I'm like, okay, there are cows there now, but hopefully there'll be something there someday. And we've been very happy, but when they went to redevelop the golf course, which is happening right now, we didn't have a lot of pushback, even though there were going to be apartments and mixed use and so forth. And I think the reason being is we understood how great everything connected to our neighborhood and how we could walk to restaurants and walk to the movie theater and so forth. In addition, we didn't want to see the golf course go, and we didn't want to see condos on the golf course. So, as I said, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, so is growth.
I guess the big question is, what is responsible growth and who decides what responsible growth is? The area is growing, people have properties for sale, opportunities come up, developers come up with concepts and ideas, and the problem really with the state and in the area is they don't have a structure to, we need impact fees. So for a developer to say impact fees, everybody would say I'm crazy. But I've been fighting that for a long time and talking with state leaders. An impact fee is exactly that, it's an impact. So if we develop a project, instead of doing $2 million of road improvements in front of our property, we contribute $2 million to impact fee to an area. You finance all your roads, and Florida was very successful in doing that. So you build the roads first, and you have room for the growth. Here, we do it backwards. We build everything first. We have to have failing traffic rates on our roads to where you can't move, and then the state moves you up and they fund your roads. Another way is the town should be able to go out and bond and build the roads today, and then have the state pay those bonds off, so that the town would pay an interest rate. So you borrow $100 million at 3%, you pay $3 million. Some towns it's a penny and a half. You put your infrastructure in, and then as the state has you set up for 2028, 2029, and so forth, they pay that debt down. And what you're seeing here in Cornelius, you have a road project that was $30 million 3 years ago, getting ready to start now, and it's $60 million. Well, you could have paid the $30 million 3 years ago, and today you would only have to pay the $30 million debt. So it's really, it's not managing, the towns can't manage the growth. The towns need to manage the infrastructure, and the growth will come to the area.
Cool. Nice job, Jay. How about a question? Right in the back. I don't know your name.
My name is Rita Berman. I lived in Huntersville for over 20 years, and now I live in Bennington. When we moved here from Maryland, in Maryland, we live in Howard County, and the executive commissioner, which is, I guess it's called the head commissioner around here, actually put a moratorium on building until the infrastructure, the roads, the water sewer lines, the schools caught up to what had been developed. And it worked. Not only did it work, all the values of all the present real estate increased a lot in value. Why can't that be applied to this area?
Good question. Who wants to take that?
I'm happy to take that. Good thought, good idea. Doesn't work in North Carolina. North Carolina does it backwards. So the roads won't catch up until the roads fail. So if you don't fail, you don't qualify, you don't get NCDOT money. The school systems don't expand, and when we were doing Bailey's Glen, we worked with one of the high schools, and they were building trailers already. So I asked CMS, I said, what's the reason for that? They need to build a school, overpopulate all the schools before they can justify building a new school. Because when they open up the new school, they want the new school to be full. Because they don't want to pay a teacher to have 20 students, they want to pay a teacher to have 30 students. So everything they do here in this state is backwards. That's why you have all these issues. So you can't wait for the growth or the infrastructure to catch up, because until you overpack the infrastructure, you don't get any money to fix it. So you'll just stay kind of frozen in time.
Okay.
So if I could just,
Colin, go ahead.
yeah, so I agree with the road aspect of that, but what we were able to do in Cornelius, and we didn't use the M word in our campaign, but we were able to take a time out and just reassess the land use plan. And those of you that live in town know that we had the Growth Management Task Force headed by my peers here in front, and we took 16, 18 months with input from the community to say, what do we want our town to look like with the little bit that's left, over the next 5, 10 years. And I think you can do what a moratorium in theory is trying to accomplish without using that word and going through the legality of that and agree that's not what North Carolina wants any town to do. But you can take a little time out, and we were very successful in that. We were told we couldn't do it, and within 2 weeks we were able to put that together. And now other towns in the area you start to hear are having that same thought process. I know Mooresville's talking about the M word. I don't know how successful that will be. That's up to them. I wish them luck. But there's other towns south of here that are going through the same challenges and trying to do the same strategy that we did. So hopefully they can learn from what we figured out.
John, do you want to chime in? or
Well,
should
I
we
mean,
get
I
another
think
question?
you also, there's a balance to that too, because people have the right to sell their land. And we do have all these 2040 plans, 2030, 2050, land use, those are guides. I think a lot of times what we think is a good potential for land today might change, 3 to 5 years from now, so you have to have that flexibility. But with so much going on here in Huntersville, in North Mecklenburg, I think it's a school issue. It's definitely NCDOT. The majority of the roads are NCDOT roads and not Huntersville or Cornelius roads, although we end up providing funding for that. It's all those entities working together. And if you've lived here long enough, you know that getting schools built here is very difficult. We have a $2-point-something billion bond package coming, and we have no new capacity in that bond package for North Mecklenburg. And that's the kind of thing that always happens, and then we'll have overcrowded schools here, and it's really CMS. And then with the roads, obviously we know they're woefully behind. I think Huntersville has $1 billion worth of road infrastructure coming from the state, but it's woefully behind, years behind.
How about another question? Okay, Justin Kazepis.
Do you believe that a couple hundred people on social media represents the true feel of the majority of the population?
Good question. Social media.
Me? I get to go first on this? Well, obviously as mayor, you and as an elected official, I've never spent a lot of time on social media, but you hear about it and so forth. And I think it's a bigger picture. I think our society is not as respectful as we used to be, even 3 years ago. And part of that is social media and what people can get away with and what they can say. I do not feel they're reflective of the overall society, because when you look at how many people actually go vote, typically it's only 10 or 12%. And I think part of that is when things are going well, people think it's okay. When they get ginned up and they come out, there'll be a little bit higher turnout. But and if you asked, like we had this Save Downtown Huntersville a couple of years ago, and if you asked anybody outside of that group, they'd probably say, "Where is downtown Huntersville? Is it not Birkdale Village?" And but that person probably didn't vote either. So, but anyways.
Hey Jake, what do you think?
Oh, I love social media. Wake up every morning and it is there. It's a problem across the whole country and stuff. I think you just ignore it. I think you can get in there and sometimes there's a group that goes at it. There's not really much you can do about it. You can comment, fight back. It doesn't really. But I don't think it should have any influence. Although it does put some pressure on elected officials. They look at that. And one other thing I wanted to go back on real quickly was when towns do planning studies and they appoint a group of residents, so you'd say, well, the residents want to be heard. But as a resident, I don't want a group of people on a board deciding how the community should be planned. So if you're going to do a long-term vision plan, you bring in experts, you bring in North American, there's a vision and there's a project, there's a concept of how growth is happening. So you bring experts in who are studying different generations and how they're changing their habits, and then you master plan a community based on where life is going, not an emotion where you bring in 20 people on a committee. And for instance, in Huntersville, the 2040 plan had a great group of people. They served them cookies and they got colored pieces of paper and they pinned it on the map of where they thought growth should be. That's the wrong way. That's not how you're going to get a good plan in your community. I mean, you wouldn't ask your neighbor advice on going to see a doctor. You don't, and a business would never, I mean, we would never call in a group of people to say, hey, how should we develop our project? So you gotta put good people on these boards that are knowledgeable. You bring in all the experts and you kind of craft and say, where is the future going? And what are the needs of the future to accommodate these generations? And that's how you come up with a good plan.
Okay,
I'll answer Jason's question first. So I'm not a fan of the keyboard warriors, obviously. I will say it is a factor, but not a big enough factor if the voices are loud enough. I take much more into consideration when folks show up to a meeting or send me an email or want to sit down and have a cup of coffee, which, you know, the haters never want to sit with you, but they'll be happy to, you know, beat you up on social media. And we've been saying since day one, we want to sit and talk to folks, and hopefully you guys have seen me out and about. I'm all ears. If you don't like what we're doing or you don't like what's happening, then say something. Social media is not the best way to do it. A lot of folks will jump on the bandwagon. So no, I'm not a fan, but it's there. But just to kind of comment on what Jake said, the town is made up of its people. Those are the people that live here, the people that pay your taxes, the people that make the decisions on who makes the decisions. You have to take those people into consideration.
Can I just make one other comment? I remember I received an email, not a nice email from somebody, and I said, you know, thank you for your email, why don't we get together, or please give me a call. And the response was, why would I want to talk to you, and why would I want to meet with you? You know, so, that's right. I don't know what to tell you.
Mayor Washington.
It's a fact. I think our planning experts over here will validate this. The growth in Cornelius over the last 24 months is 0.6%. Am I right, Rox? I mean, that's pretty much no growth. So what has been instated all these years has been affected. Now, do we have projects coming? Yes, we do. So, but we have traffic problems. Our transportation arteries are getting worse and worse. So where is that coming from? It's coming from Huntersville. It's coming from Mooresville. It's coming from Denver. It's coming from these high growth areas. So how in your opinion, do we get folks communicating better? So, and I've challenged the chamber with this as well. How do we get folks communicating better so we can better plan together? I think that's going to be a good solution in the future.
Who wants to take that?
I'll start.
Colin.
So yeah, obviously, to the mayor's point, there's a whole lot of projects that have been approved by our predecessors that haven't even started yet. So people complain about traffic today. There's 31 projects on the list. We've got a Gantt chart that I asked for a while back. You start looking at all of these. If these all hit at the same time, you think it's bad now, it would be horrible. Just in Cornelius, it would be horrible. But they're not going to start all at the same time. And we have to take those projects into consideration when we talk about the next project and the next project. And so I think, to the mayor's point, having communication with other towns is critical. I know we try to meet fairly regularly. Some of us talk more than others, but just keeping each other in touch and in the same mindset of, where do we all want to be in this little cluster of 3-4 towns. And so I think it's important to keep that communication strong.
How about another question? Donna Moffett.
So I just have a quick
Okay,
question. Outside of social media, do you feel like the constituents in your area are having their voices heard? Are they showing up at meetings and for public comment?
No, they're not. If you, every first and third Monday of the month, Cornelius Town Hall is full of staff and a few people that maybe get an award or have a specific issue they want to talk about. And so, no, they don't show up. And I can tell you, unless there's a smoking hot issue, I don't get a lot of emails. And folks just don't come to us. But if we make a decision they don't like, we hear from them then. But
There's actually been hundreds and hundreds of people coming to the Huntersville
Yeah,
meeting.
just have Jake do a project, they'll come. I can tell you that this year, for the first time in 7 years, Huntersville was looking to have a tax increase. And I was going to show up at the meeting, but I had something else to do. So I just sent in my speech, so to speak. And nobody showed up. and I was the only one to send in anything about the tax increase. Now, fortunately, they didn't raise the taxes, but I just find that fascinating because taxes affect every single person, and yet sometimes the development will only affect, you know, certain people in that close enough area. So I was very proud that we, 8 years in a row, didn't raise taxes.
Awesome, John. Jim Vogel is next, and then Michael. Jim Vogel.
Good morning, everybody. I want to let you know, first of all, that I own a social media company. So we represent, like Huntersville Business Network represents over 1,000 businesses here in the lake, 5 communities. We run the Cornelius Times on Facebook. There's about 13,000 of our members on Facebook doing things. 1 out of 7 people are on Facebook 7 times a day. So you've got to live with the good, the bad, and the ugly, just like you do with taxes. Look what's there, look who's administering it, and take it with a grain of salt. Because the more information that you guys have, the more visibility you'll see. And you can make a decision for every one of you. No matter what it is, it's your decision. No matter what any of these guys up here say, it's still your decision on what you're gonna do with the information. But I wanted to thank you guys for being here today as well.
And Michael.
In terms of adding value to the community within a project, what would you consider some of the hallmarks of a project that adds that type of value back into the community?
Who wants to take that?
I'll take that
Jim.
one. It's the quality of life. So it's what people enjoy every day. So at the end of every day when you're done, when you're at work, when you get home, what are you gonna do? When you get up on a Saturday morning, where are you gonna go? So it's adding things of quality of life. The lifestyle today is that we don't eat dinner at home, we eat out a lot. So people need more places to dine and go and enjoy. So people want things to do. And why a lot of people don't come out and speak up, because a lot of people don't care. They get up every day, the sun is great, we came here for a great quality of life, blue sky is out, traffic is a part of life. So very few are angry in there, but other people came here and said, okay, it's part of traffic. We came from all other parts of the country to where there was traffic. So when you come here, compared to, go to South Charlotte, go to South Park, where all the traffic hits us up. Great quality of life, tons of restaurants, great shops, and people are living there. So this idea that if we develop something, property values are gonna drop and everyone's gonna move out of the area. They're not moving out of Charlotte. Charlotte continues to grow. So you wanna add a project that gives people things to do, a quality of life, not just add a bunch of developments.
Thank you.
Okay. You guys good? Move on to another question? How about another question? Donna.
Sorry, so
Wait,
talk to us about,
the guidelines said 1 question.
so talk to us about, low-income housing. Affordable housing, thank you.
Yeah. So that's something that we talked a lot about. Certainly Smithville is a hot topic for us here in Cornelius. And we, as a team, over the last year, put a lot of investment into that area to help build it up and to help with some of those issues. Every residential project that comes to us, we always ask for a percentage of affordable housing to be part of those projects. That's the focus, I would say, from that perspective. It really, every town has a different focus. I know Davidson's very focused on that. I know they put a lot of money into that, and I congratulate them on that. You know, we've done our best with the little bit that we have left to put a little bit of focus. Could we do more? Sure.
Cool, Colin, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's again, you know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So what's affordable housing? What's workforce housing? You know, what are you trying to accomplish? You know, my philosophy was probably a lot more laissez-faire than a lot of people, but we wanted to at least create the conditions that you could live here affordably. Now, Huntersville has gotten much more expensive than anybody would have ever predicted over the last, 5 years especially. But there are still areas that we stress that you could build much more cheaply. And I actually could give you some details about what the county can help with as well, because they own a bunch of land in different areas. And I worked with them. They have a bunch of real estate or houses that are in arrears of their taxes. Nobody lives there. We're looking at condemning the housing and then turning it over to a charity like Habitat or Hope House. I don't know where that program was. And then they own a bunch of real estate in different areas that we went to them and said, hey, I have a developer that will put duplexes, quadplexes in. Nothing's really happened with that.
I'm on the Huntersville Affordable Housing Committee, and we spend, once a month we meet. So the real question is, what is affordable housing? So no one really has an answer of what is affordable housing, what's workforce housing. So there's really a bunch of different pots there. There's crisis housing, which is for someone who's homeless or in need, living in their car. So there's a crisis housing that needs to be pretty much managed by Mecklenburg County and the state. Then there's affordable housing that you're trying to get people in the marketplace. So there's a lot of ways to do that through public-private partnerships. One of the ones that we suggested was, let's say your housing price is $350, but workforce can only afford $250. Do a partnership and create this trust fund where people can contribute to it. So let's say you can qualify for a $250 mortgage. The trust fund puts $100,000 in, and after 10 years, the trust gets 5% a year of interest, but they don't get paid out until 10 years. So now the person comes in with a $250,000 mortgage. They have the appreciation, they have home ownership, they have 10 years to kind of figure out how to get into the marketplace. So there's a lot of ways to solve it, but you have to be creative, and you have to be able to bring people in, are going to get kind of return. People are generous and will help, but this idea that, you know, we need to give everything for free, we need to go fix your house up for free. There's ways to do it to get people incentivized. And one of the things that I always say that's the most insulting around is we need to find housing affordable for teachers and police officers. To me, that is the most insulting thing I've ever heard. Pay teachers and pay police officers the wage they deserve to live in your community. They risk their lives. Teacher goes to school, gets $40,000 to start out. Another kid goes to school, goes and gets a sales or a banking job, starts out at 60. How does that work? How does someone who's a receptionist at a bank getting 60 and a school teacher who's teaching our children gets 40? So there needs to be that recalibration to pay police officers what they deserve, and not that we have to find affordable housing for them. Pay them what they deserve to live in the community.
Okay. I was having a conversation with Mayor Washam and talking about organic growth in a town like Cornelius, for example. Is it sufficient to fund rising salaries in the police department, the fire department, the cost of running a town? Mayor, you had a good answer.
Well, you know, in our case, it's not. We hear a lot about our commissioners and myself and staff hear a lot about the fact that we're going to hit a cliff. We have tried to find out where the cliff is, but it's not too far out there. But it's created by the fact that we've got to pay our public safety people better. We've got to throw some money into the ability to help them live here. And we're doing all that. We've got incentive programs and all that cost money. But the rest of our story is transportation. The citizens have approved, $45 million in bonds. Most of that's toward transportation. And once those bonds are sold, guess what? You got to pay them back. They create debt for the town. They create payments that we've got to make. And to meet those payments for transportation that the citizens already voted on costs money. And that's why you hit a wall, and that's why the cliff comes.
So that's the purpose of, or the value in high value development is the taxable income that can come from that. The taxable ratables.
It is. It's just a matter to give people what they ask for, and transportation is on top of the list. You know, we're trying to do that, but it's not free. It costs money.
So if I could just jump on that. So we mentioned earlier in Cornelius, we've got 31 projects. If every one of those projects was completed today, the tax increase of revenue to the town would be only $2 million.
Oh, really?
That's it. And so because we only get a smaller percentage of the tax compared to Mecklenburg, and the value of those projects, every project, and Rox, keep me honest here, we talked about this at a meeting. If every 31 of those projects finished by the end of December, next year's tax increase of revenue would only be 2 million. That doesn't change a whole lot of what we would spend on or not. So
What's the
because we're
budget?
not, sorry?
What's the budget?
38,
38
34,
million.
38 million, we just did it, I
But
should know.
another, to add on to that, is 20% of the, only 20% of the approved projects, we've got these statistics on back, ever happen. So 20% of the number Colin threw out there is all that's probably gonna ever happen.
And I do think it's fair to say that that's the revenue side, not the cost side.
Right.
So if it's a heavily, populated, high-density residential area, there's a good chance that will be revenue neutral at best by the time the town has to service it.
So you want.
So even though you have the 2 million, which is a small number, by the time we service it, it's not gonna be 2 million. It's not gonna be close to 2 million.
So the business aspect is helpful, but not to the impact that I think most people think.
Yeah, but you in Cornelius, you have 10% of the housing population pays 33% of the tax. You got millions and millions of dollars of homes just in this community. You can't even locate a business here that's worth $1 million, $1.5 million for the building itself. And the other thing is, everybody here that owns a property is 47% more wealthier on your home than you were 3 years ago. So you get to this thing that says, okay, let's say for instance my tax is $6,000. My property value went up $700,000 and I'm still paying $6,000 in taxes. So politicians have to be able to say this revenue neutral or anti-tax. You spent $15 to come here and see John. You can spend $15 more a month, and it's okay to pay more taxes as long as the tax dollars are being utilized in your community and you're getting value for it. But all the towns went, I think, revenue neutral. Did Cornelius go up?
1 cent.
1 cent. So Cornelius, if you look at it, went up 47% if you look at the statistics. So the property values here went up how many billions from the assessment?
Right, I don't know.
About 46%, something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
So your property value was what, 3 billion? So you went up about $1.5 billion, and your tax rate went up 1 penny. That's why, you've got to be able to. And if this was a perfect year to raise your taxes, because everybody feels wealthier, because their home is one of their biggest assets, and nobody wants to pay more taxes. But if you don't pay more taxes, you're not going to get the quality of service that you're.
How about another question?
Wait, I'm not finished with that. So yeah, it's only one of the taxes we pay, it's our property tax, right? So I'm glad you brought this up. So for 8 years ago, Huntersville's tax rate was 32% higher than Cornelius's property tax rate. Today, it's about the same. And we've grown, right? We've grown a lot, we've done a lot of projects. And part of that is because we have grown and we have a diversified base of business. We have so many businesses. We have Birkdale Village is a big one, Target, and all these things that are bringing in other taxes besides property tax. So I don't think it's always look at what your property tax rate is. It's what your total tax rate is.
Sure, what your total tax income is.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, awesome. You're a little different from Colin, what Colin is saying.
Well,
All right.
certainly raising taxes is not an easy decision, but to the point, we do need to have this quality of service and quality of life that folks expect in this town. But without the additional growth to the 0.6 that we talked about, it's gotta come from somewhere. So you can't take care of fire and police and teacher, we won't pay teachers, but you can't do all those things and go down when there's no growth. But the growth opportunity is there, but you can't force it. You can't make a developer start tomorrow. And so that's the challenge I deal with, just like DOT. You can't make DOT start their project tomorrow. So we could have the best of intentions, we want all this growth, we want all this proper growth, but you can't make it happen other than just approving it and hoping that someday they'll break ground on it. That's the biggest challenge I think we have.
Dennis Billadou.
So in Cornelius, we've had a surplus the last 6 years, including this year, which should be about 2.5 million surplus. We keep waiting for NCDOT to start their projects, and we can't keep pace with their increases. What's your thought about local projects, ones that make a difference that can be paid out of the surplus from the local town?
Well, thanks for answer the softball because we've talked about this, but certainly any projects that the town could take on themselves. I have much more faith in Tyler and his team than I do in the folks at DOT, no offense, but we all know that they're not expeditious. And so, yeah, if the town can take on more of these projects to make them happen faster, I think we all agree that makes the most sense. And then to John's point and Jake's point, the project doesn't get more expensive because we're doing it in 5 years, we're doing it now. So I think that's the new attitude that we've all taken is what projects can we take on, which reasonable financially, and how quickly can we get it done. So obviously I'm fully in support of that.
And maybe one follow-up, feedback on exit 27, is that a high priority?
It is for me.
Talk to the Atrium group over there.
We have.
No, I think that would be a fantastic addition to the area, especially once the hospital is complete. I think, especially with traffic challenges on 21 today, you don't want to be in that ambulance sitting in traffic. I'd rather get off the exit faster. I think you all would agree with that.
Yeah, I think the road projects are probably the most frustrating thing that occurred. We have the money, the state seems to have the money, but these road projects take forever. And they do get more and more expensive every year. And I know in Huntersville we've had a lot of excess cash. And I'm more of a pay-as-you-go. So I wish the previous boards would have been paying as they go instead of accumulating. We actually had at one time, a couple of years ago, 127% of our annual budget in cash. I felt overtaxed. So we're spending the money right now on those road projects.
Justin Kazapis.
Well, sorry, I didn't update on the exit too, sorry.
What's that?
Did you fall asleep?
I mean, there's simple solutions, but you don't fix them. You just complain about them. Impose an impact fee. Simple. Every resident comes into pre-community, it's $15,000. Goes into a kitty. You know how many thousands of houses this area builds each year? Generates money. It's not gonna scare business away. It's not gonna stop people. It's supply and demand. If I have a lot of people that want one of my products, I raise the price to keep up with it. If you impose impact fees and leaders, state leaders will stop being afraid of the builders group and the realtor group, you solve all your problems. You generate all that extra income. And who's paying it? The guy who's moving into the town. So when you're advertising and saying you're the 8th best place in the country to live, and you've got unbelievable growth, Huntersville is gonna grow by 30,000 people over the next 20 years. They're coming here, they're paying the impact for your infrastructure. So there's ways to fix the problem if elected leaders fix the problem. And it doesn't hurt anybody to pay an impact fee. If I don't want to pay the impact fee, go live in another state. But everybody wants to live here. And you can control your growth by raising your impact fee. So if Cornelius wants to slow down their housing growth, raise it to 30,000. So if you're gonna get the growth, you're gonna get all this extra money. And then you can build all your infrastructure. You can fix your parks.
Are impact fees legal?
They're legal in the rest of the world except the state of North Carolina.
Is that so?
North Carolina will not allow you because they're worried about the rural areas. Well, they just have to release it that you can impose an impact fee and then every town can charge what they want. You don't want any growth, it's $100,000 a house. So you can turn the key to switch off by raising your impact fee. If you want growth, you lower your impact fee. If you're in a rural area, you don't have to charge any impact fee. But you solve your problems, you solve your school systems, you solve your police, your infrastructure, everything is solved. So there's easy solutions to fix every problem.
Is there a sentiment in the legislature to fix this kind of thing?
It's poison to even mention it. We've talked to state leaders and they're, oh no, they'll hang us if we impose an impact fee.
Christy, do you have a quick perspective on that?
I do. One of the largest lobbying organizations in the General Assembly is the Realtor organization, and they're adamantly opposed to impact fees. So that's the barrier right there. Is the money in politics stands in the way.
But every new house I build, I have to put a 5% realtor fee in my house.
Right. Absolutely.
Right? So I have to put their commission in to make sure they're paid. But I can't put 5% in my house to pay for the roads and the infrastructure and the schools and the police.
Correct.
And elected officials are worried about this realtor board who votes for people, and so there you go.
Yeah.
That's why you don't solve problems, because people are afraid of
Yeah.
folks.
There are those of us that support impact fees, and we also get a lot of money spent against us because we do. So
I'm going to catch Charles first and then try to get to Justin. Charles?
With respect, Jake, you may solve one problem, but you create a whole lot of other problems with impact fees. I lived in Southern California for years, and they had huge impact fees, and all it did was drive up that cost of housing exponentially. And it also raised the cost of the cost of all the second generation homes because they were keeping up with the massive growth. How do you deal with that if it doesn't seem to solve, it solves one problem and creates another?
But here's the problem it creates. I own a house, and the new houses are paying $15,000 impact fee. So it raised the value 15,000. Values raised 47% with no impact fee. So your market is driving because of demand. So Southern California grew because everybody wanted to go there. So it was a natural raise in value because of demand for people there, not for impact fees. But those impact fees, I have a friend just built a Goodwill in Naples, Florida, paid $385,000 impact fee to build a store. And they didn't turn the store down, they built the store, they factored in. So you can fund your community and you can do proper growth, and an impact fee doesn't, that impact fee is not gonna drive the cost of housing up to hurt anybody, but it's gonna fund your schools, you have great schools, great teachers, great roads, great police officers. I mean, I could stay up for an hour and tell you the benefits of it, but get with the Realtor Association and Builder Association and tell them to hell with it and pass the impact fee and fix the state.
Okay. Justin, you had a question.
Yeah, so the cost side and then there's the management side, so understanding that there's limitations of the legislation of what you guys can do as individual towns, but for example, something like Mooresville where they're gonna have their own in-town traffic center to be able to control their traffic lights. Is that something that Cornelius and Huntersville in particular have explored and talked about?
So I know historically DOT handled the lights at the Diamond, and people complained about that, and then we went back and found out that the system didn't work, and I think we're kind of handling that now on a more daily basis. But yeah, I think that should be something the town should have a little more control over, and not an AI or whatever the system was that the DOT was using. So no, I would be fully in support of some way to handle the light timing, because that probably helps, especially at the Diamond. Also ask folks not to stop in the middle of the lane.
Yeah, I think Huntersville is looking at that, but I'm not really sure where they are in terms of.
Pat Cawthon, Commissioner.
Thank you. I'm really enjoying this. This is a great forum. So I did want to say that, and you're talking specifically about the towns here, but you have to remember that you're part of the county and you're part of the state, and there are elected officials who have to look at a broader, like I was an at-large commissioner since 2012. I have to look at the whole county, and legislators have to look at the whole state. So some of the ideas I've heard would be great for here, but they certainly would not be great for the whole county. And when talking about like affordable housing, the biggest need is the 30% average median income. We have like 35,000 people in that section. Those are the people who are senior citizens, who are disabled, people who are maybe an hourly worker at the lower scale, a younger person. That's what the biggest need is. And you know, I see communities, and even my colleagues wanted to have affordable housing uptown a couple of years ago at the most expensive real estate in the state on Tryon Street. And I kept saying, there's no Food Line there. There's no Family Dollar. So, you know, when you talk about affordable housing, you gotta have places for the people who live there. They cannot go, they're not gonna come here. They're not gonna go to the Publix. They're not gonna go there, they can't afford it. So I would just ask you to remember that this is very complex, and it's deeper and wider than we're talking about here. And but I'm enjoying this, and I did want to ask, you know, how often do you talk to elected officials, not just in the town, but in the county? I would like to talk to you. I would like, and I've talked to, you know, I've talked to other people in the state, but I just want to bring that up because, like when we did I voted against so high in Mecklenburg County, and they can't, I would just think people are gonna be homeless because they're not gonna afford their rents increasing. I've already had people call me and say their rent's going up $400. They can't make it. So I just want to bring that perspective up. That's the main thing.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner, representing the whole county, and you do an awesome job for us in North Mecklenburg. Now, my watch, I think, is 5 minutes fast. What time does everybody have?
8:47.
Oh, so maybe we could take one more question. Is there one? Did I see one? Right there. Elise.
Sorry, I always say about the same thing that I always do. One of the things that I find interesting and somewhat troubling, Justin asked about social media. You all sort of said you don't like that feedback, but then I didn't really hear what form do you provide other than calling you independently to really kind of understand what the community is looking for. I didn't really hear that. Maybe I missed that.
Yeah, so I'm happy to answer that. So in Cornelius, we've got, on multiple occasions, we put surveys out. And I know people go, survey. But it's simple, it's easy, it's private, it's anonymous, if you will. And we give folks in our community multiple opportunities throughout the year on the budget, on projects, on growth, all this stuff. We've done a whole lot. Our communications team puts stuff out on social media all the time asking for feedback, and come to the events and talk to your commissioners. The mayor does coffee with Woody every bunch of Wednesdays, and we do town talks at D9 or whatever. So I think from a Cornelius perspective, I think we have done a tremendous job over the last 2 years to encourage folks to speak. I don't know what the magic answer is there, because there's so many ways that they can find us, and most folks choose not to. So I don't know if you've got a better answer. Please get me off to the side.
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm on the board here at the club. We get, I think, historically 29% of survey results, and those are the people that are upset.
That's high.
And I think it's a challenge. But I think it's incumbent upon the folks that lead the town to seek out that information. And I know that Mayor Washington does a great job with that. So I think just being able to verbalize that as an 18-year resident of this area, it is important to have the expertise of developers to say, this is quality of life. That's very important. However, I think it's also very important to understand what the residents view quality of life and find.
Sure. How often are the coffee chats? The coffee chats and then Wednesdays with Woody's, how often?
Well, the coffee chats have taken a little bit. We've tried to disperse them in the mornings and in the evenings. So it's a variety of people come. We've got one coming up, I can't remember the date, next week at Lost World on boating safety, which is something we've never done. So they're either in the morning or in the evening. And my events is the equivalent of office hours with the mayor. So I go out to different parts of town once a month and sit there and wait for people to come. And it's growing. People are coming. So that's been a good way for me to communicate with folks.
Quick comment from Dennis.
Yeah,
Wrap up after.
just to follow up with what Elise is saying, we got to keep trying. The recent example is the land use plan. Well, a lot of folks interpreted that as a no-growth plan, yet it's far from it. There's opportunity for growth. There's reasonable growth. So there's some instances where we could do better. So, for example, we push out emails to 4,000 citizens, and there are duplicates in there. Well, that's clearly not doing the job. And that latest example of the land use plan just proves that post-COVID, we've got to find another way in busy world, people working and running here and there, to get information out on a regular basis, factual information, and not the social media type.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. You guys did an awesome job. I want to say, too, you were a fantastic audience. This was great. Thank you so much. I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Christina Stone. Thanks so much. Bright Law Firm is... Are you still here? No. Bright Law Firm, Marzia Mazzotti, Elise Redmond, thank you. Master Title, thank you. United Bank. Adam, thanks so much. Thanks, guys. Thanks, folks.
Good job, guys.